People are like, yeah, well, they're like, this lung's been shot, but, they're like 50% bigger. Okay. Feel your chest wall. It hurts. You're not going to cry or anything, but it sucks. It's uncomfortable. They're not doing that. So to simulate that, you'd have to assume that your deer, when you shot your arrow, took the biggest breath of their day for no reason.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. Today I'm joined by a special guest, repeat offender, Troy Fowler, aka the Ranch Fairy. How's it going, man?
Very good, sir. Been very good. And this little weather we got was nice. It's actually not humid today.
Yeah, we were up in Alberta recently, and it was 75 up there. Like, we're going through a warm front, and I'm like, stop, dude, stop.
Yeah, right.
That's a cold front down here.
Well, to any of you guys up north that are listening to this, if it gets below 40 here, we're struggling. It just is what it is. So today humidity's down probably below 50%. And it's 70. And it's like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Put on a parka.
Yeah, so, it's fall, y'all. Yeah.
It's fall, y'all, and opening days tomorrow. So every guy who's deer hunting is just dying. Or this has happened to me in the past. The wind's out of the north, and you set everything up southeast, and you're screwed.
Yeah,
I've done that so many times. Just I got them, and then the norther hits on opening night.
Oh yeah,
and you go, oh good, not set up for the north.
Well, we never get those cold fronts, so you don't have no north wind stands. It's a problem.
Yeah, I've learned that. I got them now, but I can't tell you how many times when I was young and you're 30 and you're just fired up and you just don't do the math. It is what it is.
Yeah. So it's been a little bit since we talked to you. I think it was like last summer. What have you kind of been getting after? We talked a little bit before about the fishing stuff. You've still been shooting any hogs, or are you the bass kind of keeping you busy?
We went down with the hunting public, killed 10. The boys have they went a little bit angry at them. And I've been shooting a few, and I've been fishing a lot, which I do anyway. But starting in February, I've actually gotten into turkey hunting, which at 56, I'm a rookie at. It's super fun. Something I just never did. And I have a real hard time not fishing in the springtime. And then into the summer. And in the summertime this year, I've got the grass. The lake I fish is grass everywhere. Like and some of the grass is 10 feet tall. So I've gotten into flipping like 3/4 ounce jigs that are just going 80 miles an hour by them. And it is one of the funnest bites because you just pick it up and it stops. Or you see it go, and then you see the line jump, and it's braid, no drag, and it's like punching, but the whole lake, the grass is, this far below the water, and then it could be 10 feet tall. So that jig just fires through the grass, and they just reaction grab it, and you'll see it stop, and you'll pick the rod up, and it's heavy, and you get to lean on them.
Oh, yeah.
It is really a fun bite. And
there's nothing like ripping one into the next county, man. And it's probably not going to break. You're like, yeah, I'm leaning into this. My rod's going to break before this line breaks.
I will say this to anybody that flips: don't slackline them. So I learned that the hard way. Like, you just want to lower the tip and really cross. Like, I'm gonna break your neck, and I lost a bunch doing that. Now that don't mean I don't lean on them hard, but when they hit it and it gets heavy, reel down and then keep it tight and just pull real hard. And what Hackney said this, because I watched every flipping video I could find, and Hackney said they got it. Like, they got it. Make them pull. And it's hard to do, like, to lean on them, and if they pull back, you got them. Every time. If you slackline them, sometimes that jig comes flying because it's only 9 feet deep, maybe, because they caught it going down. That jig goes, woo! Hit you between the eyes. I mean, I have not hit myself in the face yet, but it could happen.
Yeah. That's an accomplishment in itself. So I watched the hunting public stuff, the broadhead stuff you guys were doing down there with some of the hogs. What exactly were you guys testing? Just structural integrity, seeing how stuff held up on bone, or what did you guys get into?
Yeah, the purpose of shooting a pig through the skull is to actually look what the pig does to the broadhead. So you're simulating the worst possible impact, which would be a shoulder blade, humerus bone, that kind of thing. So the penetration matters, but the looking at the broadheads after that matters more. And we'll get into that. I want to talk about today. We want to talk about cardiopulmonary physiology, some of the ways that broadheads cut arteries and veins, and then the structure of lungs. There's been a lot of stuff out there lately rattling around that is completely erroneous. And I just want to clarify that because a lot of people don't have the background I do, which I'm a respiratory therapist and had a cadaver. That being said, I'll go back to the topic at hand. The goal of that is we know we're hitting bone if you shoot a pig in the head. So you've eliminated perfect hits. We're talking about a hit that doesn't go right, deer ducks, la-da-da, right? Shoulder blade closes and you hit the shoulder blade you did not intend to hit. And we wanted to see what the blades did and if they were still sharp. If they were chewed up or dinged up, then that means the potential exists for a massive reduction in sharpness should you hit a scapula, ridge of the scapula, or if your scapula is quartering a little bit, then you hit it the long way, like it goes through, it actually makes the bone longer. Like most people test a flat scapula. That's kind of cheating because it's perfect. Like it's a perfect test to prove that broadheads will break a scapula. Okay, well, take that son of a bitch, put it like that, and shoot it, well, like this, and give it a little angle and see if the broadhead skips, right? Or it's longer that way. So that means the blades are going to drag on it more. I was pretty shocked. I've done that a lot, but I was pretty shocked at that shameless plug. I was shocked my broadhead still shaved after going through skull. I mean, it was 3.5 or 4 inches of solid bone, right? I was amazed that happened. The magnets held up well, and then we shot the beast, I think, and the blades were pretty chewed up. And in defense of that, because I'm going to be fair, we don't know where in the penetration cycle that occurred. So that's always the mystery. You can't just, it's chewed up, some bitches ain't no good.
Yeah.
Now, that's not fair to anybody, right? Because you don't know. So you'd have to get progressive bones to find out if it gets chewed up at impact, which then if it goes into the thoracic cavity, it's dull, or did it happen, it hit something on the way out that was really hard and chewed it up. So just to be fair, we don't know. So that's why you just keep more data, compress it, and then you'll see outcomes. 1 shot does not make a test. 2 shots don't make a test. 20, you get you something there. And then Rob Nielsen's in Australia right now. He's coming back tomorrow. He killed a humongous water buffalo, and they did a bunch of testing over there too.
Oh, that's sweet. So
we'll have another report with an 80-pound compound. I think he tested 4 or 5 broadheads, a couple of mechanicals. I don't know what the list is. They went around with a rifle and shot them like Ed did, and then down and then test. Right under Ed's conditions. And that report should be really, really cool.
Was the beast the only mechanical that you guys tested during that?
No, we shot the Trypan, which just stopped like a rock. And the beast did well. I don't think we shot anything else. There was one mechanical. We couldn't even get the damn thing together, so we just didn't even show it. Like, we couldn't make it work. Like, the parts were going all over the place. And we were like, screw that. We're not doing that. We don't have time for that. Plus, it was 100 degrees, and the pigs were not exactly tasty. That shit's best done in February. When the pig can sit for a while. We had to shoot and shoot. Like, we had to get it over with because they were, God, it's gross.
Yeah. No, the heat, it doesn't take very long for the heat to chew them up.
It doesn't take long, man. And they swell up a lot, and it gets gross. So the best time to do that would be a cold front in February where they hold. And you can actually take your time, more time. We had it planned out and had the arrow set up. I don't remember what Broadhead wouldn't behave, but we couldn't get it together. So we
Yeah.
just didn't. I don't think we showed it. We didn't like hate on it or anything. We just went, okay, we're not doing that. Like, that's not fair either, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you guys did test the beast, because I think there's a lot of people that are interested in kind of the merit of that bone evading technology and kind of how that works, of staying fully compressed to kind of pass through bone, or at least doesn't, the blades don't have to break through the bone nearly as a wider surface area. So
there's that. It's a pretty solid. It didn't bend or anything. I'll give it that. And I'm tired of seeing the videos of it hitting perfectly between the rib cage. Come on, man, give me a freaking break. Every promotional video of that Broadhead shows the point going between the ribs every time. That is bullshit. And if you get it quartering away, it closes. It goes like that, and then all of a sudden you got that. So just be fair. Just be fair. But they're not going to do that because it's a marketing deal. And fine. I know what my Broadheads do. I don't care about the angle. It smashes. So I don't have to think about that. Obviously, there's a lot of promotion around it. Bomar's got a huge platform and a shitload of money to get it going. So fine, good for him, right? Good for him. But the videos of every single time that the Broadhead goes perfectly between the ribs and both blades hit perfectly on the ribs, come on. Like, come on. It's not going to happen. There's 13 of them. Go like that. Go like that. That's not even a hard quartering shot.
Yeah.
And it's hitting bone the whole time. So will it skip? I don't know. I'm not bashing them. I am bashing them because they show perfect every time. But come on, man. Let's find out what the real world looks like. And I think it's going to do fine. It's going to do mechanical stuff. It's probably going to tilt the ass into the shaft because the blades aren't going to be deployed at the same time. One of them's going to kick a little bit, and they're going to wiggle a little bit. But I don't know. Christian, I just have a problem. I just want to know, I just want people to not stretch it.
Yeah.
Not stretch it. That's why we did the bone test on the head. The beast went right through. Right? Everybody thinks, okay, well, now I'm shooting the beast because it went through a pig head. Well, that's not what we were testing.
Yeah.
We're trying to find out if the blades are still going to be sharp. Well, he shows a video of them being like, 8 micrograms of pressure. Right. I'm not worried about them when they're flying. I'm worried about when they get there. Because one thing about double bevel broadheads is you can really lower the angles and make them ferociously sharp. But they also get paper thin, like the edge of aluminum foil. The beast did fine. I've seen much worse blade damage on the other mechanicals, like the blades are twisted, chunks knocked out of them. So I'm trying to be fair. The thing held up pretty good. And I know a lot of people are buying them.
The other interesting thing that I heard, I think it was a social media clip the other day, or maybe a podcast clip, was what's the rate of recovery when it does, compress down and gets back into the soft tissue? At what rate does it open? Is it all the way through the animal by the time it opens again? Because it's going 300 feet per second, or does
they're hauling ass. That was a question we had.
Yeah.
If it would have been winter, I would have cut the skull open and seen that the wound channel was probably this wide. Now, there's a couple of things that we've wondered. Is that a barbed broadhead? There's some states that don't allow barbs, right? And again, this is not me hating on mechanicals. I'm just talking, I don't care. Do whatever you want. It's America. But is it barbed? So does that make it illegal in some states? I don't know. And I don't know how that's enforced, right? So you may just not ever get a game warden who's worried about that. They're worried about you doing illegal shit, like, poaching, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Baiting where you're not supposed to, not having a hunting license, bigger problems. So you're probably never going to get caught for that. And then, but I'll play devil's advocate in favor of it, is that the blades are on the outside. So even if it's only a half-inch wide or whatever, it's still cutting.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen some narrow broadheads do some amazing stuff. So if I was a total fixed blade, high FOC shill, I would tell you never shoot the thing because it's super narrow, because it's probably going to be compressed, and that's stupid. That's not right. That's not fair. And the people who make that comment have never shot it. I get this a lot with my stuff is, if you've never shot a 600 grain arrow with a single bevel on it and seen what happens, you shut up. Like, you've done it, right?
Yeah.
So you have some context. You did it a lot. You shot like 6 deer with it, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So you have a comparative analysis that's actually legitimate. People get on the internet and they make these claims they can't substantiate, nor will they test it.
Yeah.
They'll just say, well, the reason why I wouldn't shoot the beast is because Fowler says never shoot a mechanical. Okay, whatever. And it's going to be super narrow when it goes through because there's no way, because of the velocity. And that you're just making up a bunch of crap. It's just not true. It's just conjecture.
Yeah.
And so it's fine. It is what it is. You can't stop the people nowadays. They'll just go off with no context, making a lot of assumptions. And what I have found out is, so many tests we did, I said, okay, the outcome is going to be X. And it was not. And before I start on the cardiopulmonary physiology, I'll give you the greatest example of, wow, it was the stuff that caused that. Ballistic gel is super sticky, super heavy, and completely consistent. Keep that in your head if you're listening to me, because I'm going to go somewhere with this, and you may have to like stop before you make comments and say I'm an idiot. So we shot a 700 grain arrow with a single bevel. We shot a mechanical going much faster. We shot a fixed blade going in the middle. So think like 280, 290. My arrow's going 220, and one going 250 or so. They all penetrated exactly the same. And everybody says, see, Chris B's famous for this. And then he wounded those freaking buffaloes to death and had to take his videos down. So he looked at his results from gel and said, it doesn't matter. And when me and the guy I was working with on that went, why? Why didn't our arrow win? This is not a pissing contest or hooking up 2 trucks with a chain and seeing who can drag people around.
Yeah.
It was the gel. So one arrow's going slow, one arrow's going really fast, and Newton's walking right into the damn equation here. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So the fast arrow is light and gets more pressure pushed against it, stops it. Remember, the design of the gel is to stop high velocity rounds. They want to catch the bullet and see what it did. They don't want it shooting through. That doesn't tell them anything. The slower arrow doesn't get as much resistance, but it doesn't have as much velocity, and it gets caught. And have you messed with the ballistic gel?
No, I haven't spent any money on that yet.
Well, don't do it.
Yeah,
don't do it because it's a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
We had to stand on the gel and pull the arrows out. All of them. So it's super grippy, super consistent, and it's intended to stop things. And we went, Ed bought the gel for me and said, you can do this, but I already know what the results are, but you guys just need to go do it. Call me when you're done. And we called him and said, this is what happened. He goes, yeah, the gel's the problem. It's a terrible test because it's designed to stop things. It's the same with foam targets. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, wow. Theoretically, my arrow should have out-penetrated everything except the target to find it. It changed the whole test. And you have to be philosophically consistent enough not to be such a home teamer to make up some damn excuse why your arrow's better or worse, even though it did the same performance, and look at the whole thing. The velocity stuff I did on lab radar, shocking. Downrange momentum, I did not expect that. It is massively in favor of heavier stuff at 60, 50 yards on target, right? I expected it to be kind of like this. It was 25, 30% more for an elk at 60, right? I thought it's going to be close. I was wrong. So that's the hardest part. You have to be curious enough and philosophically consistent enough that if the outcome is the outcome.
Yeah.
Don't try to prove something you want proved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've never really, that's not really how my brain works. So I can't identify with people that are like, if you told me 700 grains is the way, like my brain would go, okay, cool, I'll try that. And then I'll try 650, and then I'll try 600, and I'll try every one of them. But when people are like, no, this is what it is, I'm like, dude, you have no experience doing anything else.
No,
that's like
never
the F-150 is the best. Have you drove a Ram?
Right.
Have you drove a Chevy?
Yeah. Have you driven the new piece of shit with the twin turbos that goes 60,000 miles and blows up?
Yeah.
Maybe. I have a Tundra that's a 2015. It does two things. It passes all the cars and it never passes the gas station. So I got that going for me. That some bitch is awesome except for the gas.
Right.
And it has one knob for the radio. Like it has no electronics on it. It doesn't talk to me. And I'm very happy. You turn it on and go. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
right.
let's dig into some of the stuff you brought, some of the examples. I'm curious on what you've been working on. Yeah.
This is the stuff I'm going to start talking about going forward, because the cardiopulmonary physiology piece is massively misunderstood. And please, everyone listen and keep this in your head. I don't know how I'm going to phrase this to make it clear. When the broadhead passes through and into the cardiopulmonary, so the lungs and the heart stuff, okay? There is no predicting what you're going to hit. So the outcome could vary, even on a perfect pass through, straight up the leg. You could have one go 200 yards, you have one flop over go 30 because of the physiology. I'm going to start with that. We're going to go with a lung. I'm going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, this is my heart and my artery and my airway system. And then we're going to talk about edge angles and when you cut something, what it looks like. If that's okay with you.
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, at the most simple understanding of a lung, and I can get way deeper than this, but it's not really fair. Lungs don't pop. This is not a balloon. I couldn't find a balloon. I don't have any kids anymore, little kids. So when you blow a balloon up, tie it off, hold it, and pop it, it pops. Lungs have superstructure. They're actually an organ. And this is really misunderstood. And this is a 3-part lung. This is the driver's side lung. The driver's side has 3 lobes. The passenger side has 2. And the liver typically favors the passenger side of the deer. The stomach kind of sits over here, and the liver hangs pretty flat, but tends to curve around the stomach, depending on the amount of content in the stomach. Okay. Because there's 3 parts, so there's 3 parts of the lung. If you shoot back and you hit this one, okay, let me get back a little bit. It is a lethal hit, especially if it hits the other one. However, it is completely possible that it compresses and clogs the airway, allowing this part of the lung to function for a while longer. It's like when you pop a bubble, chewing gum, and you suck it back in, it gets like tight. Like there's no air, there's no hole there anymore. It's exactly like that. It completely can occur. So it would start to deflate and close the hole off. And the next one, it doesn't do that, and they go 50 yards and roll up. So it's super variable. Now, one thing they cannot survive, or has a less of a chance of occurring, is if you shoot the front lobe straight up the leg, vital V. When this one starts collapsing, these are compromised. Okay. Still could clog the hole. Still some tissue could get in an airway, wrap around it, and 50% functional as they haul ass. Dead? Yes. Blood trail? I don't know, because it's pretty flexible. And then remember, a sponge is a great lung thing, because when you go look at a sponge, you see all them holes in it.
Oh yeah.
That's airways. And what happens is when you shoot through the lung a bullet or a broadhead, it just does this a little bit, and all those airways just go. It's like popping bubble wrap. That's a really good example. Like you walk a line across bubble wrap, that's your broadhead path. And then once those start collapsing, the other parts of it start to collapse, and the lung may go like this, but it doesn't do that.
Yeah, it's not a balloon.
We've all gutted enough deer. Like the lung's there. If it was a balloon, it'd be gone.
Right.
There would be no lung. So once that compression starts happening, you have no idea where that tissue's going. It's super mobile.
So
anything smoking your head? Questions? Because
so
that's a lot.
The lobes. So there's on one lung there's 3 lobes, and the other lung there's 2.
Mm-hmm.
Is what you're saying? Yep. Okay. So that back lobe,
Mm-hmm.
they operate independently of each other, or like a chain reaction?
They're in a chain reaction. Yeah.
Okay. So that back lobe, hypothetically, you could hit that back lobe directly. Say on a quartering shot, you don't hit the other side, right? You just nick one of those lobes. That's survivable.
That's 100%.
Because you hear that if you hit them in the lungs, they're dead. Before I had talked to you 3 or 4 years ago, I'm like, I don't think that's true. When you started to describe the lobes, like you can lung hit them and not kill them, which is kind of unfathomable.
No, it is until you've studied it. Remember, I was taught how to fix people so they don't die. So it's just, there's too many variables to call it 100%. How's that?
Yeah.
That's why you just occasionally you get one, you go, what the hell happened? Like I did 6 of those, they rolled up. Why did that one go 200 yards?
Right.
Jake on the hunting public just shot a deer and hit it in the vital V about this far. I mean, it's right in the vital V, and that deer lived for like hours, right? I don't know if it was hours, actually. That deer walked into, I don't know how long it was between watching it walk in that canyon and we rolled up, because it looked like it went down. May have been, okay, we'll call it an hour. I don't know. It was daylight still when they thought that it stopped, and then they found it was all stiff. That one's unexplainable because the impact was perfect, right? Now the deer moved. I slowed it. I'm a dork. I don't watch the hunt. I just go to the shot and go, oh, wow, what happened here? And then I'll watch some of the hunting stuff. So what I think happened to Jake, God, see, these are the ones I wish I was there to gut it, just to look at it. What I think happened, the deer moved a lot. Like he shot and it moved, which is pretty common. I think the deer was like this and the deer went like that.
So it didn't hit it directly.
It looked like it went this way. It looked like it spun toward him. I got to go back and look, but nonetheless, I know it was moving. So you have a perfect double lung. Other lung would be here. And then if he spins and does this, it's going over the top of the other lung, or it just gets the top of the other lung and doesn't really cause a big laceration. A super deadly laceration, because up in the upper regions of the lungs, there's very small arteries and airways up there, really small.
Yeah.
It progressively, this is another example I have. So if this is your heart, this is the aorta that runs to the back. There should be another one that goes to the neck. You have arteries and veins, and then you have really small stuff, okay, inside the lungs, down to the molecular level. We're talking tiny, because that's how the oxygen breaks loose, gets one molecule, and goes into the, I won't discuss all that. That's how it gets in the bloodstream, is little tiny ones. So that's why you need to cut everything. That's why the broadheads need to be sharp. It's got to cut everything.
Yeah.
You can't just hit the big stuff. Worst case is bounce off the big stuff and cut some of the little stuff, and then it runs forever. So that's why I've always been a huge proponent. You want to shoot 400 grains, fine. You want to shoot 600 grains, fine. Please strop your broadheads to like the scariest edge you can get. Check everything out of the package. And if it doesn't shave hair real easy, you've started off, you're not helping yourself.
Yeah.
You're not.
Well, that example you used with Jake makes sense. I watched that video and it made me think of a deer I shot last year over here by my house. And so I shot this doe, and like you said, kind of maybe the lungs tilted, the deer dropped, whatever. I shot her from a little bit of an elevated position on the ground. She was kind of in a ditch below me. This is where I hit her.
Right.
She was alive 35 minutes later when I walked over to her. And I was like, what? And it confused me. I'm like, that is center of the vital V. I passed through. I'm like, this makes no sense. And she was still alive 35 minutes
later. Where was
later.
the exit?
It was a little, I think it was a little lower than that. Maybe just a little lower. Or maybe
lower.
No, I don't remember where the exit was. I couldn't tell you. That was the entrance.
My guess would be it would be either horizontal or higher.
Yeah.
I see a lot of tree stand shots where the exit's the same height as the impact. And that's because the deer was you're shooting from up here, and then they roll, and it helps you. Ted shot a pig with us. I put him on a stalking spot, and the pig behaved. I said, there's one boar that comes in here. He's usually here about 8. I dropped him off at 7:40, and at 8:05, they said, we got it. We got him. I was like, okay, great. I'm the best guide ever. But God, cell cams are great. But that pig was about like this, arrow approaching this way. And he actually, let's pretend his head's up here. That pig was about like that. And when he shot, the pig went like that. And the arrow hit him in the guts. And it went all the way like it couldn't get out of his jaw. He helped him. If he would have stood still, the pig's dead. But the thing rolled away, it started to spin away, and the broadhead went in back in the guts. And I mean, the broadhead was buried in the jaw. It went through everything, including the arteries in the neck. Like that was a bad hole for a blood trail because it went through the guts, but there was so much pressure from all those arteries being hit, it bled like crazy. And that's not predictable either.
Yeah.
It's just too variable. Right?
Well,
the pig went 50 yards. We'd have found it. He knew where he ran. So if he didn't bleed, we'd just go over there.
Yeah, that way. Yeah, there's so much stuff that's unpredictable and honestly unexplainable until you start to look at some of the physiology stuff. Like I saw one last year of a buddy who shot one in the vital V from an elevated position and bled super good lung blood. And he hammered it. I wouldn't have put it it looked like a 12 ring to me. Yep. And they never found the deer. And
no kidding.
And he was alive. He came back. He's back this year. I'll send you the video after this over text and see what you think about it. It made
amazing.
Made no sense to me, but there are some unexplainable things that happen when you're shooting live things.
The cardiovascular system is a little more durable than a lot of people realize, and could be when a lung collapses, they put a tube in your chest and let the pressure out in a hospital. We've all seen it in the combat movies where they jab it in there and all this air comes out and all this stuff dragging somebody out. That's actually, if you're in combat, you prefer to at least stick a dirty damn big pin tube in you and maybe you'll live to because the air is going in the chest wall and will smash your lungs down, called a tension pneumothorax, and smush on your heart and stuff. So I've had a couple that just are not explainable either. And the only thing we can do is the arrow should go through every time. The broadhead should be hand sharpened. And then what happens. There's no explaining any of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, right? Sometimes. And it will never stop. And the animal's movement's a real big problem that we will never fix. Going fast, going slow, going heavy, going light. You can never predict how much they're going to move. You've got enough video, I know you guys do, that you could put together all your shots look at them, and every one of them will be different.
Oh yeah.
If the deer moved, they'll spin, they'll roll, they'll drop straight down, they'll just spin. And the worst one is when they spin away, roll, and duck. That's
Love
the
that one.
worst.
Yeah.
Because they're bringing the shoulder blade down, they're getting out of the way of the arrow. So you change your impact points 5-6 inches possibly because they're fast. And for that one, for that particular situation, since the deer's changing the point of impact, you got to be ready for whatever you hit. That's one of the things that I'm having a hard time not saying. Please get above 550. Please shoot durable broadheads. Everything works when everything goes right, but when it doesn't, please get the arrow through them. Because you can't fix that. You can't. They voted. Right?
Yeah.
They vote. So that was stretched.
Yeah, in my experience, it's not how if they're gonna move where we hunt. It's how much.
It's gonna.
Yeah.
And the pigs are terrible. I've never had one not move. And I lost one. I lost a jumbo. He was probably 275. Humongous. I hunted him for like 2 months. He finally made a mistake. And you've done this with a camera. You're dicking around with a camera. Your brain's kind of everywhere. When you have a camera, it sucks because you're trying to get the shot. 17 yards. I'm 15 foot up in this stand. He's big as a freaking 55-gallon drum. It's like, come on, man. Whack his ass. And there was another little pig around him, one that was about 150, and he kept chasing him around. Like he was kind of on point, like a deer that knows you're there, because he didn't want him around him. I said, here goes my hero moment. I'm finally going to kill a really giant one. He was so fat. His legs looked like toothpicks on a 55-gallon drum. He was big. He was huge. He's still alive. So I draw him back. I'm shooting like 620 grains with a single bevel. Nothing crazy. I draw. I check the camera. Note to YouTube hunting video people, please make sure the numbers are moving. That means it's recording. I've shot like 8 pigs that the camera wasn't recording. So make sure the camera's recording. So I'm at full draw. I look up, numbers are spinning. So I got video. I can see him in the camera. I say, good, we're good. Literally, when I released, he went after that pig. He went straight forward. I hit him this far back from the intended point of impact, went through him like butter, skipped 25 yards past him. He didn't die. I didn't hit bone. I didn't have a shoulder pop. The little damn thing was just, I couldn't read that. And he just started to move. Like he was just going to go over there and go, get out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, right at release. I saw it hit him. I was just like, sweet. Never finding that bastard. So that's the kind of stuff that you're just going to have to chalk up to. It is what it is.
Yeah, it wasn't his day. Yeah.
It was not his day. And 2 weeks later, my buddy sent a picture from another feeder. He goes, hey, your pig relocated.
Yeah, that's funny.
He's still out there.
Yeah. So I want to just touch just a little on the lung stuff, just a little more, mainly from an aiming perspective. So rear lobe, you always see people, especially people that shoot mechanicals, or say that 10% of the aiming area on a deer is the shoulder, so you should just put it back, and you don't have to worry about that if you go right.
Physiologically incorrect, but okay.
But yeah, you hear that a lot.
Yeah.
So aiming back behind the shoulder 3-4 inches, hitting that rear lobe of the lung is not nearly as lethal as hitting.
It has more opportunity for things to go weird.
Okay.
Especially when they drop and you hit them a little higher. That's a lot of space under the organs for the blood to go inside. It doesn't want to exit. Blood's pretty heavy, just in and of itself. And then you have to remember that the chest wall is compressed against all the organs, and it doesn't want to if it doesn't have enough pressure to blow out, it'll just go down the inside of the chest cavity. So if you go back 3 inches and then you shoot and the deer moves and you hit him a little higher, 3 inches higher, you got all that chest wall and skin and stuff for that blood to go into, as opposed to, so your blood trail is going to be questionable, and it just has a lower, just because of the physiology of it, it's still lethal. You hit both of them, they're dead. They may be 150 yards, they may not. It's just not as physiologically sound as moving forward. And I'll use my onion now. Here's the heart. And these are all arteries and veins. I don't have an airway system in here going back to the lungs. Okay, the heart's going to sit like this and it's going to go back. You cut this off, it's over. Because everything behind this is dead. And it's airways and lungs. I mean, arteries and veins. It's not just blood. Cutting off the airways too is a humongous deal. So let's just say you go vital V, but you don't hit the heart, but you cut through all this big stuff. Okay. And then it tapers. Here's your point, that the tapering goes down to the back of the lobes and gets smaller. You cut this off, you cut one of these big Hummers off, the back of the lung is totally compromised. The whole lung and all the arteries going back. And the heart goes crazy and starts pushing blood faster because it knows what's happened. And you don't care, to be just real straight about this, you don't care if they bleed outside. You care that they bleed a lot. I bet you've rolled up a few that went 35 yards and there was like no blood trail.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's one of those hits where you've cut off something so devastating, it's unsurvivable. Remember, if you whistle one through here, you're hitting the major airways as big as your thumb and the arteries and the veins servicing the heart. If you hit high, you still have bigger airways and arteries and veins and 2 lungs, like just the organ itself punctured. And it's just going to lead to a much higher recovery rate, and then we just said your buddies hit one perfect, and I can't tell you why. And that is always going to exist. Always. Those are just like unbelievable, right? Maybe their physiology is different. Maybe the things aren't where they're supposed to be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. There are genetic anomalies where, vessels are not in the right location on humans and they're still alive. Things are clogged off they're not supposed to be. And they're still walking the earth and they get surgery and get it fixed. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Is it you hear some people say I hit them in the heart and the lungs. The way you just explained the heart, the arteries and the veins and the stuff coming off the heart, there's obviously airways as well. Is it possible to hit the heart and the lungs in a single,
sure.
In a single
Especially
pass?
from above.
From above it is.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Even on the ground, the lung kind of gets near the heart's sitting here and the lungs are kind of around it, right? It's not like this. It's not 100%.
They overlap.
They overlap some. Yeah. And then the inspiratory cycle, if they take a breath right before, the lungs are a little larger. That's there's a bunch of videos running around right now of people inflating the lungs on animals in a rib cage with no meat on them, and the diaphragm is removed, and the lungs become enormous. It's a bunch of BS. The lungs are contained in a triangular box, your rib cage, and then the diaphragm's in there, and it is vertical, and they can't go past it. To I'll ask the audience this question. How many times a day, if you think that the guys who are inflating lungs and showing you how big they get are truthful, they may not know what they're talking about. Okay? They may not understand what they're doing. I'll give it that, because not everybody has the knowledge of the background and stuff like that, like doctors and stuff. How many times a day do you do this? Like the biggest breath you can possibly take.
0.
You never do it. And even when you get scared, you go, and you tense up, right? You don't go, I mean, it's uncomfortable as hell.
Yeah.
So to simulate this idea that the lungs are humongous ever in a hunting situation with a deer that's totally like out there just doing stuff, it's crazy. People are like, yeah, well, they're like, this lung's been shot, but you know, they're like 50% bigger. Okay. Feel your chest wall. It hurts. It don't hurt. You're not going to cry or anything, but it sucks. It's uncomfortable. They're not doing that. So to simulate that, you'd have to assume that your deer, when you shot your arrow, took the biggest breath of their day for no reason. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Those kind of videos bother me because of my background. And I've got some goddamn justice gene that's just, it's horrible. But in some ways. So just don't be misled by that stuff. Those deer are breathing 12, 15 breaths per minute like we are, normal. And by my own reaction and your own reaction, and when your buddies like kick you in the ass for no reason, scare you for some reason, do something, you rarely take a humongous breath. You usually, your first move is tight. Like it's a fight or flight reaction, right? So you don't go, you tend to, go like that. So when that arrow's delivered, even if they're jumping it, they're not taking the biggest breath of the day. It would actually take a lot of effort to do that.
Yeah. No, it
if
kind
you
of
think about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I can inflate my tires to 80 psi. It doesn't mean that's how they're supposed to be. It might not drive down the road very good, but
those are my kind of analogies I really like. That's a great analogy, right? And they would get bigger and they'd be stiff and your car would skip down the road and be moderately dangerous.
Yeah.
So what else before I move on? Any other questions? Things
that makes sense. I think that Vital V shot you're talking about on top of the heart where all those connections kind of come together. I've seen that time and time again where I shot a 230-pound buck in Oklahoma right there, probably 6 inches up, and hit him, and he ran 10 yards and he didn't bleed. He just goes, whoop, and it just falls right over and just starts kicking. I'm like, that's it.
I think that's called cardiogenic shock. I should have brushed up on that. But there is a condition where your body is losing so much blood, you literally go into shock. So when you see those deer get out there and they start to do this and they're wobbling, it's not their brain. The blood's leaving their legs. Your body's pulling the blood back to where the survivability is. Literally, they can't walk. Yeah, their brain's not doing good, but everybody thinks they're getting woozy. No, their legs ain't working, bro. You don't need legs if your heart's not working.
That's true. Yeah.
No, it's when you think about it, right? You don't need legs. You need your heart to be working, or you're not going to live and you can get your legs back later, right? I sound like a complete smartass, but it's pretty straightforward when you think about it. So then the blood's leaving. There's a finite amount of blood. You're obviously a car guy. So if I nick my radiator hose a little bit and drive down the road, it's going to spray radiator fluid out and melt the engine, right? Because it's a finite liquid system. Your body, a deer's body, only has so much blood. So it recruits from places that are less important to places that are. Not to mention the spray coming out of the heart. I mean, it's literally dumping back. It's just can't push it. The blood pressure to get out there is pretty high to get to the ends of bottom of the feet etc. Okay. If it can't push, it's not going there anyway. That's a simpler explanation than it's recruiting. That's a way better explanation. The arteries and the veins you've hit are spraying out so much blood it can't push them to the legs. That's actually more accurate. And so they get wobbly. Yeah, the legs ain't working because their chest is just filling up with all the blood, and it's a finite system. There's only X amount, and it's now being sprayed out. Down they go.
Before you move on, I'm curious. There's obviously some things you can do hitting a single lobe of a lung and surviving. And we may have talked about this in a previous podcast, but it's been a while. What about a liver? What about a liver shot?
So livers just have really low blood pressure. They're totally vascular. There's a lot of blood in them, but they have a very low. The physical blood pressure delivered to the liver is very low, so it doesn't have a tendency to want to spray. Liver shots are lethal. If you think you hit one high at the end of the rib cage, that's about 4 hours. They're lethal, and then you'll hit one super high and cut the aorta under the rib. I've done this to a bunch of pigs because they jumped and spun, and it hits really high, and you cut the aorta off or you cut the liver off, and they bleed but that's an artery.
Yeah.
Right. The liver hangs down, and there's artery and a vein that come off the aorta. I can even get more complex with this. That's awesome. So here's our aorta going under the spine. The liver's hanging off of it, and there's an artery and a vein going up to the aorta. That's pretty close to the diameter of a deer's aorta. That's, I don't know, 3/4 inch pipe, something like that, half inch. If you cut this off, seriously lethal, because this aorta is going straight back to the heart, and it's pressing at full blood pressure, and it's just gonna same thing. Lots of blood coming out, probably going inside, and wobbly legs, and you're like a hero for hitting one high because you hit something. You hit something the diameter of that. I'm not that good, but I'll take it every time.
A win is a win. Yeah.
The win is a win. But if you can hit that right there every time, good on you.
That's like that 14 dot on those ASA or IBO targets. Right. It's like that. I'm shooting for that. No, you aren't.
Thing, right?
Yeah.
You're probably not going to hit that. But if you hit it and you roll them up, then what you should say is, I got so lucky. Never do that again. The deer moved on you. It was something you didn't intend to do. Nobody really intends to hit them really high and back, I think. So if you get away with it, just chalk that up to, oh, thank you. I went to church on Sunday. Everything's fine. God's smiled on me today. It won't happen very often.
Yeah,
it will not. And but a liver shot, sure, it's lethal as hell. The trouble with the liver is on a broadside shot. This is a super thick example. You should cut this in a third. It's hanging vertical. So on a broadside shot, man, the tendency to be able to miss right next to it is really high. Now, passenger side quartering away, hard quartering away, now you're coming through it. You've cut the liver, you're going into the lungs and the heart, and the more organs you can hit, lethality goes up. So broadside, it's just so thin. It's, maybe a half inch thick in the middle of it and tapers. It's got 2 or 3 lobes. She's brushed up on that, but it's a multi-lobe organ as well. It's not just a big flat piece. That aside, broadside, it's probably as wide as your hand. So it's just not there's not much there.
I didn't know that. See, my perception of the liver was like that it sat the other way and that it was about probably that, 4, 5, 6 inches wide.
It is wide.
Yeah, but broadside, that's what I thought the orientation of it was.
It is wide this way, physically as a thing if you turn it, but it's hanging. So it's not sitting like this on a broadside shot. Your lungs would be here.
I didn't know that.
It's like that. New. Diaphragm's here. The diaphragm separates the lungs and the heart from the guts. So liver's here, kind of this way. The stomach's here. Depending on how full it is, it'll push the diaphragm forward a little bit. Diaphragm's here. Okay, really thin, super thin, paper thin. And then lungs are in front and the heart. So it's completely separated in its own compartment. And like I said, on the passenger side, if you can get a quarter and away shot and you can hit it and it's going into that's better, right? I said 4 hours for a liver shot, but you shot through the liver, extra wound, and into the lungs, and you've tripled your lethality. Like you've hit another organ. So you could hit from a tree stand, you could hit liver, 2 lungs, and a heart. You want to talk about devastating. You
Pretty
won't
nasty.
get a lot of the offside lung. You'll get a lot of the impact side lung on a quarter-inch shot. But if you hit a little bit of it, you got liver dead center. Let's just say it was perfect, right? Just 3/4 of the way up the body because you're shooting from an elevated position down. Center of the liver, one of the lungs gets whacked lengthwise. So now the wound is this direction, super long, about like that, right? Well, you're coming in to the lung like that when you're cutting it lengthwise.
Yeah.
Huge. Oh, that's ideal. That's why the quarter and away shot's so good, because the wounds become longer.
Yeah.
When I was with Giannis down on the Etruria, he shot a nil guy. They were rutting, and it was like an elk. Like there was 2 of them fighting, and one of them was circling, and this bull was out of his mind, just walked right in front of him. Ideal. That's exactly what you want in any hunting situation. I want something dumb, preoccupied, and walking in front of me. That is the ultimate combination. And it was walking, so he drew. It was like 25 yards, and it was moving, so he shot, and it just kept going like this. It kept turning. Hit the guts. It hit we did a full necropsy on it. Nil guy's about the size of a cow elk. So roughly, they're shaped different, but roughly. It hit 8 inches in front of the hip. And it really turned away from him. The arrow penetrated 42 inches. 650 grains with a 200 grain or 150 grain single barrel, I don't remember. The broadhead was sticking like a bullet. The skin was puffed up right here. The broadhead he hit it on the driver's side. Dead center stomach. Passed through that, did not hit the liver. Center of the diaphragm, cut both lungs, and cut the top of the heart off. Thing went like 60 yards and rolled up. But that's that long lengthwise. Here's the crazy part of that. Much like an elk, they're a long animal compared to a deer, right? So when I put a tape measure on it, I carefully pulled the guts out, looked at everything, Remember I said the diaphragm begins where the guts are and the lungs and the heart. I'm recalling this from memory, but I think it was 23 inches of stomach penetration before the arrow was lethal. Might it have died of an infection if that arrow stayed in the stomach? It might have. Not likely, actually, because they eat browse and stuff and their stomachs are like designed for that. Probably. Okay, but that's a guesstimate. The final 16 inches of penetration were lethal. Once it crossed the diaphragm, hit the heart, the lungs, and all that stuff, and then tried to exit. After punching through a humongous sack of grass. Okay? That was one of the most rewarding things I've ever seen, because it proves you want to penetrate as far as you possibly can. If he had shot an arrow system that only penetrated 3/4 of his 29 or 30-inch arrow, it would have looked good and never hit the diaphragm. I measured it with a tape. It was 23. I think it was over 20 inches. So if you're shooting a 30-inch arrow, you got 10 inches sticking out. That doesn't look like a lot. You would think, got him. However, the tape measure showed stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't kill it till it moved the next 16.
That is interesting because we're typically building arrow setups for 10 to 14 inches of penetration on a diaphragm of a whitetail, right? And you don't think how much longer that can get at quartering away angles. You're
Yeah,
like, no,
right.
you could be shooting for 40 inches, not 10.
You could on a deer if it's, if it's quartering a little bit, or in his case, this Neil guy he was out of his mind. He was just walking back to the fight. Like, he wasn't hauling ass or anything. It was a totally practical shot for the situation. If it was 50, I would have said, oh no, because he's moving, right? But it was 25, and it's a big ass animal. Right? There's a lot to hit. It was big. So I don't think anything went through his head. He's a big time elk hunter, so it was just a same situation he's been in a bunch because he's an elk guide and all this stuff. But on a deer, same exact situation, and then you get how big was that deer you shot? 250 pounds, like a big deer.
230, yeah.
It wasn't one of these damn deer down here. My deer are like 95 pounds. I mean, they're tiny, right? They're like whose deer. That's just the way the genetics are on our plates. To your point, in the same situation, rutting deer, not out of his mind, pushing a doe, walking. And he slowly does this. And as you release, he's continuing to move. And you could hit him right in front of the hip and have to penetrate 20 inches, 17, before it gets to the diaphragm. And that is a really resistant organ. It's a really heavy, wet, grass-filled.
I've heard it described as like a bag target, like shooting a bag target that's all intertwined.
I've not tested that, so I can't confirm that it's that, but that is the closest thing that we can, compare it to. And then if you get a really wide broadhead, like a mechanical in that situation, it's going to really resist because it's just solid matted grass. Extremely variable too. There's sticks and twigs and all kind of crap in there. They don't just eat grass, right? So leaves. So if that arrow goes in, say 20 inches, 18, it looks good sticking out of it. And it never got there. It never got there. And you and your buddies like, God dang, look at the video.
Smoked him.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Why'd he get away? Well, it just never got there. Right? That's why you should shoot an arrow system that you think is going to try to pass through the goal 100% of the time because it's better lethality. But it's got to get there. And that could happen. A tree stand shot could give you the same thing, right? Like he's walking under the tree straight away from you, twig, stick, like real saddle hunting, like the hunting public guys do. And I'm sure you've done like public thing. Like you can't trim. You went in the morning, you say, that's a straight tree. And here you are having to deal with whatever's in your way. All of a sudden there's a big limb. He goes 16, he's at 18, he's at 20, and he's just walking. And you hit him back here, which is a totally practical angle. There's nothing there. There's no bone. Well, you hit him in the spine, right? But if you don't hit the spine, the ribs are real thin back there. And that arrow only penetrates 15, 16 inches. You're not getting a blood trail unless you hit the aorta. And that's not very practical from what I'm describing, because the aorta is in the spine. And you get, 3/4 the arrow in him. Maybe it barely gets past the diaphragm. And he goes 500 or 700 yards, or you lose him. And you're like, look at, I got most of my arrow in it. That's the stuff I can't accept anymore. And I can't accept it because in my own hunting for 20 years, all I did was go to the shop. They gave me 400 spine arrows. They gave me a 70-pound bow. And my hunting penetration was erratic. 2 would pass through. 1 would go in halfway. I'd have some stop for no reason. I bought every broadhead on earth, thinking that would fix it. And until I wandered off by myself and said, I got nothing to lose with this Ashby stuff, and I got, a ton of targets to shoot at, and it's completely illegal to kill 100 of them a year. At 550 and a stinger is when I started to see dirt behind them, like a bullet went, like you'd shoot and there would be a puff of dirt behind them. And I said, what's that? Because the years of all the indoctrination of, hey, they're kind of tough. Sometimes you don't hit them right. You're a bad shot. You don't practice enough. You suck. That never happens to me. I'm 100%. And you get this feedback that's all negative. And there's no solution. And because I'm me, and I just say, I don't understand what's going on here. You should, if your penetration's all over the place on air, you shoot 10 animals and the penetration's inconsistent. Have you ever asked, is that a good thing?
It's not a good thing.
Is that good? Or is that just the way it is? And when I hit 550, that's 125 grain broadhead and a brass insert, and I spined up to 300. Didn't know anything about arrow flight, no bare shaft, totally guessing. Because nobody offered me any solutions. I just kind of went out there and said, well, I can't do worse. I got animals that are legal to kill. I can shoot 100 of them a year. I can shoot them at night. And I can't do worse than I'm doing now. So if it doesn't work, then I validated that it doesn't work. And I'll never forget, the first one was like 80 pounds. It wasn't the big one. I'll never forget. I was like, God, that arrow's slow. Like, it looked like it was just like, oh. I hit her perfect. So that right through the vital V, low. But I remember seeing dirt. And I was like, the hell was that? She went like 50 yards and rolled up. Didn't know anything about the physiology. I hadn't studied any of that. So I pulled off the perfect shot with no, this is how you do it. But I remember seeing dirt. And then it happened again. And it happened again. And I was like, So then I said, I don't know. I wasn't convinced. This is on one of my old videos. I went back to what I was shooting. 285 feet per second, Swacker 400 spine.
The Hunter's Advantage podcast is brought to you by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. I used to be that guy lugging heavy gear down a steep hill after a big buck and regretting it with every single step. But now I use lightweight and dependable gear from Out on a Limb Manufacturing, and it has made a huge difference in my hunting and allows me to get to those hard to reach places. I do a lot of saddle hunting on public land throughout the fall, and a lot of those walks are 1 to 2 miles deep into the mountains. And in those situations, extra weight is not your friend. There's nothing better than walking through the woods and being able to get in any tree that you want. I've been running the Shakar sticks for a long time now, and the Ridge Runner 2.0 platform, and this past year I tried the Flatlander saddle from Out on a Limb as well, and all that gear is extremely lightweight and comfortable. If you want to support a 100% made in America company, go to outonialimbmfg.com and use code HNTA15 for 15% off at checkout. Once again, that is code HNTA15 for 15% off at outonialimbmfg.com. We trust Out on a Limb products for run and gun hunting anywhere in the country, and we hope that you will too.
I shot a pig that weighed 230 pounds. I shot him in the vital V, and the arrow completely stopped. It stuck in him like 2 inches. The broadhead was bent. The blades did not deploy. They were hung up in the broadhead. I didn't hit the shoulder blade. I think it was a rib hit. Yeah, it was a rib hit because I saw the scar on him. I killed him 2 weeks later. He ran by the feeder. The arrow hit the feeder leg, and it flew out like just... Don't tell anybody, but I've been playing with a 670 grainer with, I think I still have the broadhead. Oh, where you at? It's here somewhere. Oh, this is the broadhead that I shot. The exact.
Oh man, that's a freaking
190
javelin.
grain grizzly with the nasties on it. And I didn't want to tell anybody that I was shooting that arrow that heavy, going that slow. I go back 2 weeks later, the same dumb pig comes into the same feeder at the same time, stands in front of me at 17, and the arrow goes to the fletch. I was under spine. I was shooting 300 spine still. Goes to the fletch. I look out the window of the temp line and I see him roll up, even with 50 yards. And I went, okay, well, that's a pretty good comparison. It's the same pig in the same blind at the same distance. And so now that 550 to 650 for, again, going back to Giannis's talk, you and I describing a deer that's walking away from you, needing to get maximum broadhead distance through the target, right? Long wounds. I just can't, for what I've seen, I can't go back. I just can't. It just isn't. I shoot through everything now. And when I described myself making a mistake on a pig that did this, and I lost one, I posted a video about it, that I was messing with the camera. I was getting ready to draw, and this is just my procedure. I looked up, numbers are rolling, so I'm recording. And he took a step toward me when I looked up, because the video showed it, but I didn't see it like with my eyes. I had mentally already said right above the elbow, and I did not make the adjustment because I was jacking with the camera, and it wasn't like this. He just went, it was a real subtle, he just went like a little bit, but they move like this. They can't turn their head very much like a deer. Like a deer when he's eating corn or food, he can do that. Pigs always move. And he literally went about like that. And my brain was locked above the elbow, and I one-lunged him. Arrow went 30 yards past him. Never found him. And I posted a video about it. Arrow didn't fail. Troy failed. I can't accept any more. I can accept me screwing up. I cannot accept to see an arrow do something crazy and go, okay, my whole hunt was screwed up because the arrow failed. Yeah. The arrow failed. That sucks.
Yeah. No, I mean, it does. It's the
worst.
It is the worst. Yeah.
Bent
I've done that myself.
Dull broadheads, just dumb little stuff. Dull broadheads probably bother me more than anything, because people will make sure their string matches. This being a smart ass, but I've done it. You want to make sure all your stuff matches, your arrows are tuned, the fletchings are all in order. They look really great in the quiver. You spend all this time, and you could have spent 15 or 20 minutes sharpening broadheads instead of watching football or looking at Instagram. And we're all guilty of it. I'm such a dork about that. I strop all my freaking hooks every time I come back for fishing. I have a strop sitting right behind me, and especially when I'm throwing a jig, I've thrown it 400 times because I'm flipping, 10 feet all day. And when they come back, I take a strop and I strop the hook just a little bit, because it's pulled through grass. You hook a few fish, you hook a tree, drag the boat. But if you spent some time, you got to make every preparation you can so that the arrow system doesn't fail. That's the worst thing that could happen to you. And my measurement for that is it's got to pass through.
Yeah.
90% of the time, right? And there's going to be some comments below. Well, you talked about Giannis not passing through a nail guy. I said, well, he shot 42 inches of penetration and hit everything lethal, and that's going to happen. And the broadhead tried. It's literally sticking up like this. Okay, that's one. Nail guy went 60.
What other goodies you got for us?
I want to talk about bevel angles a little bit and holes that they make. So I've got these two pieces of wood. This is a 20-degree angle. Okay, this angle is 20 degrees. Most double bevel broadheads are somewhere between 17 and 20 degrees, give or take. It becomes a 40-degree angle, which is relatively wide. not unsharp. Don't get me wrong. And there is a trade-off. If you get too thin, they get too thin and they'll roll. So you have to have some structural integrity of the edge or it won't cut. Okay, so there's a pretty good bevel angle for a double bevel broadhead. Okay, single bevel is 50% of that. It is a true 20-degree angle. This is why they're expensive. Typically, you have to get good steel or it will fold up. Same argument, right? If you make this thing really narrow, it'll be sharp as hell until it hits something. If you use cheap steel on a single bevel, it will roll. So that's why they're expensive. They're stupid expensive to build. I couldn't believe it. What kind of cut does that make?
I mean, just a regular hole. I don't know. A double bevel?
Well, a double bevel, yeah. And what would you expect the wound to look like if you got in and looked at an artery or vein or tube?
Oh, just like I would think just a straight line. Yeah.
Correct. And every broadhead except a single bevel stops rotation at impact. So you got this manipulation by the fletchings. When it hits, it stops. That right there is an energy eater, because the shaft's doing this and the broadhead hits and says, no, we're not doing that anymore. The whole arrow buckles and you lose some energy because of every broadhead on earth but a single bevel. Okay, once again, here's your single bevel, 20 degrees. Rarely is there a 20-degree single bevel, but most of them are 25 to 30, because once again, if you go to 20, this becomes very difficult to manipulate. But I'm making a point here that's broader than that. I cut some tubing to simulate your correct answer, which is the slit would be straight, like scissors.
Yep.
Well, look what it can do. Okay.
It can line back up. Yeah.
Remember, all of this, everything around it is a superstructure and has stuff around it that it isn't sitting free like this. If you cut this, it could do that. There's stuff around all of it. Will it always do this? No, it will not. Variability. Okay. Look at the diameter of that. So I cut a single bevel cut, and it looks like this. It's angled.
Yep.
100% of the time. Even if the broadhead this is not a spinning thing. This is because that angle right there cuts on a bias. This has equal leverage on both sides and will only go straight. Your answer was 100% correct. It will be a slit. Let's compare the holes.
Oh, I see it.
You got that hole, and you got that hole. You want big holes through the arteries and the airways? You got that. It's actually very large. And it won't have as much of a tendency. Again, this is totally variable. We're dealing in very small little pieces of minutia that can make a difference over there. And so it just slices through. What's gonna make it do that? It's not a bullet, right? A bullet's like high velocity and destructive. This thing's a surgical instrument.
It's a cut.
Just cut it off and it's gonna want to line back up. That's where it was. It's like when you break ribs, generally speaking, they don't like a green stick fracture that kids get a lot. Little kids like under 6 have really flexible bones. They tend not to break their arms. They tend to green stick them, which means it just goes, but it doesn't snap because they're flexible. Arteries and veins, airways, want to be back in the position they were in. There's no reason for them to say, oh, you cut me, I'm going to go like that.
There's no force pulling it that way.
There's no force to make it want to do that, right? And then I've never done this before, and I'm going to do a full video. So you get the first shot at this. I'll let this get out, and then I'm going to do videos on this. But that is pretty. I've never looked at it this way. That's pretty amazing. The difference in the diameter of the hole. It's just bigger. Remember, that's every artery, every vein, every airway would be cut off much wider as opposed to that. Okay. So it's just a big old hole. And it's just, like I said, this is a little bit in the weeds, but it's just those little things we're trying to eliminate that unexplainable outcome that you and I have talked about on 2 or 3 animals. Or why the hell did that happen? Right? And increase our lethality, because days in the field are pretty precious, and we don't want to have the arrow broadhead system be the problem. To the best of our ability.
Yeah.
But that's the stuff that's, you just get to be a dork, and I'm a dork. I mean, that's crazy, right?
No, it's cool. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that aren't tinkerers. They don't like to think too deeply about it. And I always tell people, like, think as deeply as it allows you to still enjoy it. I enjoy that kind of stuff. And it's like, so I like finding out why things work. Yeah.
You know, back to when we were talking about the gel and we saw this and we were like, okay, well, it's right in front of us. You can't debate what happened. But the target is part of the test. Everybody focuses on the arrows. You got to remember, the pig headshots we've talked about are the pig's part of the problem too. You have to unravel and figure out, right? The gel compared to a foam target. I did a smart ass video of my son where we shot a foam target and a telephone pole, a foam target and a dumpster and a box, because I kept getting some crap from one of the pros, and he was making memes about me for years and doing all kind of stupid crap. He's a big name. And I just let it go. And then there's the line in the sand where every man decides no more. And I messaged him on one of his stupid comments, and I said, brother, I'm tired of you. I'm bringing it. So hang on. Next week, you'll have a video that shows you're wrong. And the foam was 7 inches every time. The dumpster collapsed the arrow. The telephone pole, we got a 1/2 inch of penetration. And the box, it went completely through the box. And my whole point there was, what I just said was, that gel is part of the test. And unless you assess what the gel does to the arrows and how that happens, you have to try to figure out why the results you got are what they got. I had so many comments that said nobody shoots a dumpster. They totally missed the concept. Right. And I would reply, well, I got a pass through on the box. That's all I said. Pass through on the box. We're great. No reply, right? But the foam was 100% consistent. The gel is 100% consistent, despite arrow mass. And this guy had done a bunch of testing into foam targets and he had written on the fletchings, and they did a lot of work. They spent a lot of time trying to disprove the ranch fair. It was kind of hilarious. It was a lot of effort for nothing. And they had 600, 550, 400, et cetera. And they're all the fletchings. I mean, the nocks were perfectly lined up. And I was just like, okay, I know how to answer this. Let's just change the target. So my broader point there was, a deer's one thing, an elk's another. And I talk to people all the time who are indoctrinated to believe that their 420 grain arrow that does pretty good on deer, they're going elk hunting and they're going to shoot 70. You just increase the target size 3 times. It's 700 pounds. The bone density, the skin, they roll in the mud. There's not a lot of muddy deer. I mean, think about it. Like this, that, let's just do that. Bull elk roll and waller. All of them wallow, I think. But I think it's primarily a rut thing. They want to smell fragrant and pee on themselves and be delicious. Bring on the ladies. So you're now shooting a sand and dirt covered. Go rub your broadhead on some sandpaper and see what happens. Animal that's now not 200 pounds or 150, it's 700 pounds. And you've listened to the industry tell you to shoot 70 yards. And you have erratic arrow performance on a deer. I am 100% guilty of this 15 years ago. I just thought if the arrow works, the arrow works. Until that one day when I said, why can't I just have the arrows go through the pigs? That the same arrow for elk bothers me a lot. Because, like I just said, the target's way different than a deer. It's tremendously different. You could get in the situation like Giannis and need 45 inches of penetration, and you have an arrow system that's inadequate for going through the stomach, just because of the mass. And
well, everybody,
and all the other things.
I would say the lion's share of people that are building arrows are looking for one arrow system that does everything, right? Like they're like, oh, this is my arrow. I'm going to shoot this at antelope,
then I'll tell you what
deer,
that is.
elk, everything, right?
It's a 300 Win Mag in guns. If you want to do everything, it's a 300 Win Mag. I actually looked up this. I'm just dork. I'm such a dork. Arbitrarily, I said, okay, if I was going to go elk hunting and just say I need one rifle, a 300 Win Mag is awesome for that application, and the ammo is readily available. My personal bend on rifles is don't buy the crazy stuff. Buy the stuff and go to Walmart, look at what's in there caliber wise, and if you lose your super cool VLDXs, you can get you some 300 Win Mags and probably kill an elk.
I want to shoot a 224 Valkyrie. I like those really cool rounds. Yeah,
that's a great round, right? Shoot the new 7mm PRC. My buddy has one. He can hardly find ammo for it. So I compared a 243, 100% valid round for deer, whitetail deer. That's a 200-yard deer killing machine. It's a great gun for hunting whitetail deer, especially in Texas, the way we do it. 200 yards, 100 grain bullet, anything inside of that, you can smash them. Most people who hunt multiple species have multiple guns. This makes your point. They want one arrow to do everything, but they have 5 guns for doing different stuff. Prairie dogs, 22-250, 243 or 25-06 for deer. They got a 300 or 30-06 for elk. And then if you go to Africa, 375 because, hey, honey, I'm going to Africa and everyone needs a 375.
Yeah.
Because they're awesome. You convince the old lady to let you buy a 375. Yeah, 375s are awesome. It's incredible on steel. God. Anyway, the amount of impact the 375 has on a 16-inch AR 500 target is freaking incredible. So back to the point. I pulled the data on a 243, 100 grain Winchester, whatever, Walmart bullet. It's soft point. And then I pulled the data on a 300 Win Mag, 180, pretty standard bullet. Whatever, I don't remember what the brand was, but it wasn't something crazy. Not that would change anything. The ballistics, this is an accident. I'm going to do a video on this because it was an accident that's awesome. The ballistics on both rounds were almost exactly the same velocity, all the way to 500. You're talking about plus or minus 50 feet per second difference between the two as they traveled downrange. The drop on the 243 was 7 or 8 inches more at 500 yards. That's aerodynamic drag on a light projectile. But the energy, I'm not going to look at my phone because I'll screw up our call. I think the energy on the 243 at the muzzle was like 1,900 foot-pounds. And I think the energy on the 300 was like 3,100, something ridiculous. Maybe it was 2,900. It was not 10%. It was, but remember, the velocity was the same. The only answer for that is mass.
Yep.
Okay. Now, to y'all listening, if you're smart, one of you smart guys, you will have already figured out that we can't do that in bow hunting because the cartridges are different. You've put more powder in the 300 than you have the 243. Gotcha. But they're going the same speed, and the 300 has massive amounts of KE compared to the 243 and was more efficient further as far as drop is concerned. I think it was 5 or 6 inches. Like, it was big. Like, it wasn't something small. And it was what is that, like a 70% increase in mass? Yeah.
Yeah.
100 grain bullet, 180 grain bullet. They only changed the mass. And we'll finish with this. I'm sorry to make everybody's brain smoke. This is the kind of stupid crap I think about. In archery, you have a fixed device. The launcher, the powder charge is the same every time. Okay? So see, I'm 65 pounds, 20.5 inches, pretty fast bow, nothing crazy. When I raise the mass from 400 to 600 grains, I've raised the mass 50%. But the speed erosion is only 20. It is not a 1-for-1 ratio. You do not trade a percentage of speed for mass. It does not work like a balance beam. You can put a significant amount of mass on your arrow, but the speed will only drop 22%, 23%, and the mass goes up from 200 grains. The math is an equation. You've raised the mass a pile, you've lowered the speed a little comparatively, thus the momentum goes up, downrange. Same example as the 243 and the 300 Win Mag.
Yeah.
Same velocity. The only thing we changed was mass, and it was a huge difference.
I think people can wrap their head around that in calibers, and it's just that people don't think that way in terms of
the
arrow.
velocity. So the cheat in there is I seem to be such a homer that I'm just going to avoid the fact that the cartridge is gigantic. I address that. I'm trying to be philosophically fair here. I'm not trying to just be such a home tamer that for the big arrow guy that I don't acknowledge that. But the velocity is the same. The only thing they changed is the mass. Go look it up. Like, pull your phone out after this is over, punch in ammo.com or whoever, ballistics chart for 243, ballistics chart for 300 Win Mag, velocity the same, downrange ballistics for the drop favor the 300, same velocity, and the energy is incredibly high compared to the 243. And I was just like, wow. When I saw that, I was like, that's crazy, except we have a giant cartridge. It would be like saying you shoot a 50-pound bow and then an 80-pound bow. That's the only way you could do this.
Yeah.
Sort of, right? That's
Sure.
the powder charge. So, all right. I think I've smoked everybody. I hope I helped. I want everybody to hear this. I'm trying to help. I know I'm a smart ass and I say some stuff that's off the wall. I jab a little bit. I got that. But my heart lies with you being successful. I get more joy every year out of getting pictures back from people with things that kind of went kind of weird and they still got them.
Yeah.
Right. The ones that say, man, I've never broke a shoulder blade. Here's the crack in this shoulder blade from this elevated position. It's 7-inch long crack. The arrow buried at the fletchings because it was hung in the shoulder and he went 47 yards. That's when I go, the world's becoming a better place. It didn't go, huck, and that deer's running around out there. Right.
Yeah.
So
the Hunter's Advantage podcast is brought to you by Numa Outdoors. Growing up, I remember waddling around the woods, looking like the Michelin Man and still freezing my butt off. But thanks to Numa Outdoors, those days are over. It's not just about staying warm. When I go out hunting, I need to know that I have gear for every single thing the woods might throw at me, whether it's heat or rain or cold. Numa Outdoors offers quality gear for every pursuit. If you're looking for quality garments backed by a lifetime warranty, make sure to go to numaoutdoors.com and use code HA20 for 20% off at checkout. Whether we're chasing whitetails here in the South or we're headed out west to get after some bugling bulls, we trust Numa Outdoors and we hope you will too. Man, I appreciate you spitting some knowledge. You did comment on a video that we had a few weeks ago. I think it was on Instagram. It was from one of my new friends, Scientific Archer, and I wanted to leave you with this. Let me see if I can pull it up here. If it'll pull up, can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
So this is.
Let me get my glasses.
Yeah. So this is interesting, and like I like listening to people who have different perspectives.
No, you should listen to everybody and make your own opinions.
No, right.
Don't think at all. Just don't think at all. You're better off that way.
So I've been interested in this topic too, this idea of range forgiveness. Like we know animals are variable. They move a lot. They're getting an accurate range, especially in bow hunting, and getting a full draw. They usually can be at a little different range.
Let's just, I'm going to put this out there. We all assume we're better than we are, and we put the arrow on target. So let's just put that out there. You didn't miss by 3 inches. This graph assumes that the arrow is perfectly shot.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be a butthole, but please understand that there's no archer error percentage in this graph. I'm not trying to knock this guy.
Yeah.
I'm not kicking him in the balls. That's just how my brain works. And you have to understand that if you pull the shot 3 inches because you're nervous or shooting in a weird angle, then all this stuff changes. It's not wrong. Okay. But proceed.
100%.
I'm sorry to stomp on it.
So in the vein of, there's no perfect solutions, only trade-offs. This is something you could overlay on top of everything that you're saying and saying, in the Ashby study, one of the first variables is at a a trajectory that is acceptable.
That you are comfortable with, right? Acceptable for what you're doing. Uh-huh.
Right. So you can look at this. This is with my setup, and the mass goes from 350 to 650. And you can see if you're aiming at 40, and the deer was actually at 45 with a pretty common arrow of 450, you're going to be off 4.72 inches versus 6.6. Even if you got more moderate, 550, you're looking at less than an inch of difference.
But the difference is, so if you shoot a 400, can you make that bigger? Man, my eyes are going. I don't think you can. You can just, there we go. Okay. So if you shoot here, it says minus 424. Is that a 400 grain arrow?
So this is 350, 400, 450, 500. They go.
So let's do like 450, which is probably where people really are shooting about 425 these days. I don't know a lot of people shooting like 350 anymore.
Yeah.
You think that's fair? If not, tell me.
Oh yeah, I think 450. I think that 420 to 450 range.
It's kind of where everybody's landing.
Yeah, with their draw length.
They're shooting a little heavier broadheads, but they're not going crazy like Troy.
Right.
Okay, so it's 4.72 inch miss, right? Low, which actually, if they jump the strings in your favor. So if they stand still, it's not. That's another problem with these graphs is the variables. We've just discussed every animal on the earth moving.
Sure.
Low's good. in any arrow. Low's good, generally speaking, but we're going to assume for the sake of this discussion that deer doesn't move. This is 3D. This would show you on 3D, right? Let's just do that. It's easier. The difference between, what is the minus 589? Is that like 650 grains or something?
Yeah, so it's 450, 500. This is be 550.
Okay. Yep. So the difference between those two is only 1.2 inches.
Yep. And it's 100 more grains.
Correct. And the momentum is probably 15% higher. So it's a 1.2 inch miss. It's not a 6 inch miss.
This, like, considering the way that people view a lot of the stuff you say, this paints it even more favorable than I thought it would be by increasing the mass.
I have videos on this. I did 2 of them and I was shocked.
Yeah, I thought it would be a lot more.
No,
Personally,
this is one of them things I talked about earlier where what you think's going to happen doesn't happen. So when I for this graph, people say, well, it's a 4-inch miss or a 6-inch miss. No, it's not. It's a 2-inch variance. You've missed. Both arrows missed low, but it's 1.2 inches in that case. That's not a lot. I'm not trying to be a home teamer. That's how this needs to be interpreted. Not 4 inches or 6. Gosh, 6 sounds like a foot. No, you both missed. And it's a 1.2 inch difference. And that's what I found. That's cool that chart shows that, because I don't remember. God, I should remember my videos. God, this sucks. I only have like 200 of them. I know one arrow was 650, and I think I shot 400 or 450. But I put them on their own trajectory curve. So I sighted in for 40 with a 650 on a slider, and then I sighted in for 400 or 450 with the slider, and I backed up 5 yards and held for 40. So I missed the range estimation by 5. And it was 1.23 inches. That graph validates what I found.
Yeah. So
the hole for the fast arrow was here, and the heavy arrow was like this far away. I honestly, Christian, before I shot it, I expected like, I'm going to have to go on a home team and back this up somehow and make it better.
Yeah.
But when I saw 1.2 inches, and then you get in the woods and it's a downhill shot at a bull elk pushing cows, and you're excited, I went, I don't know, I'll take the momentum.
Sure.
At 50. Because the momentum's outrageously good. That's a great chart.
Yeah,
but once again,
I like people putting the data and stuff together.
That's
it
really
puts it in
cool.
context for me.
But just make sure that when you see this stuff, make sure that what you see and what's actually there, even my stuff, that's why I've got a lot of stuff I want to do, and I can't figure out how to make it 100% correct. So that chart shows it's a 1.2 inch difference, not a 6 inch difference. It's this far.
Yep.
Right? It's not a lot. And in the instance of an animal jumping the string or dropping both arrows, it should favor both of them. Like, they should hit higher.
Yeah.
Am I right on that, or do I sound just like a total home teamer?
I'm about the truth, and I know that how, where everybody has their biases and what they want things to shake out to be. And I just think that it's interesting to look at people's different perspectives, and when it says something consistently, from people that maybe don't even agree. To me, I don't know. I just enjoy that aspect.
I don't disagree with that chart at all. I think the guy's chart is absolutely accurate. It's just not as big a miss as you think it is. And
it surprises me. It really did. Yeah, it surprised me a bunch.
No, I'll tell you exactly why. I know the answer. It's aerodynamic drag and speed loss. So, wish I had my computer. I could give you the exact numbers. The heavier arrow loses about 40% less speed over a 50 or 60 yard difference than the faster arrow does. I'm going to try to talk. I just put this up on one of my videos, and if I'm wrong, everybody you can bust my balls. I'm within 5 or 6. But I think the fastest arrow in my subset over 60 yards lost like 27 feet per second. And my 589 grain arrow lost 12 or 14. So what that means is the trajectory curve for a fast arrow goes like this, and then as it gets out there, it really starts to plummet, and people will see that in their sight pins and your sight tapes. If you get a sight tape for like a 450 grain arrow out to say 70 or 80, if you lay it down, it will open up. It is not like a measuring tape. It is not perfectly consistent. And that's because the drag on the shaft is very high due to the velocity and the low mass. So it's more like this, And then when you start to get out there out west where everybody's like 60 yards is now the new 20 out there. God, you have this so do you play golf?
Play is a strong word. I've golfed.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have golf clubs.
I do.
Are they all the same length?
I don't believe so. No.
They are not. They are
Yeah.
not. Your short clubs are short. Your driver's the longest, typically 3-wood, So inside of 40, you have this flatter, closer pins. And then as it gets out there, you're managing an ever widening gap as that arrow gets eaten up by drag and that velocity loss. So when you shoot far, you're actually managing more drop as you go further out, particularly past 50. Inside of that, it's a flatter shooting projectile. There's no doubt about that. The heavier arrow going slower, because it's heavy, can push against the atmosphere, and it's not literally fast. The drag equation includes mass, a bunch of other stuff, cross-sectional density, which is hard to do, but they've done a lot of stuff with air for planes and stuff. It includes velocity squared. So as the speed goes down, the drag goes down, and the mass is up. It creates less drag. That's why you see, so a heavier projectile is a more consistently flying parabola. It is not consistently opening up. The gaps may be wider, but 20 still 20 and 30 still 30, and in between 5 yards.
Right.
There's only one guy on golf tour that I think rode Bryson, what's his name?
DeChambeau,
with.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has all the same length arrow shafts up to 5-iron or something.
Yeah.
He's the only guy I know who does that. I need to do that because it would be a whole lot less. All the angles change. Like every one of them is it's a different golf swing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love that chart.
Have you ever measured? Yeah, Scientific Archer. His name's Jake Satterfield. Okay. Yeah, smart guy.
Yeah. Have I ever measured what?
Have you ever measured time to target? Like how long it takes for an arrow to get there on a heavy versus light arrow, since the arrow is retaining more of its,
I pulled
speed
some stuff
downrange?
up because I was talking to a guy on email and he came at me pretty hard. And what I do now is I poke back and I look at what people are thinking, and they don't even know they're being psychologically analyzed. It creates some content for my channel. It was fantastic. I know I pissed the guy off a bunch of times, but I wanted to see what his reply was. He was fully indoctrinated. And it was really nice. So he said, with no uncertain terms on one of the messages, here's the deal. Because
that's a great way to start.
Huh?
That's a great way to start. Here's the deal.
Yeah. Here's the deal. 100% accurate. Your arrow is going to be 16 yards behind mine. And I said, how do you figure? And he said, it's distance times feet per second. And I said, I literally replied to him, I've never thought of it like that. I didn't know if he was right or I was right.
Yeah.
I said, I got to think about that. You might be right. I mean, I gave some on the stuff. I was like, that's actually might be a good point. So I thought about it and I was rattling around. I literally woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, oh, I know what the problem is. He's doing feet per second. We're not flying that long. You got to fly 100 yards. We're at fractions of a second getting there. So you'd have to do the fractional time to target. And I can't figure out how to do it. To figure out, so if you raced, if you could get 2 bows to shoot at the same time, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And you'd watch the race. And certainly the fast arrow will get there earlier. Right? No doubt. But he said, undoubtedly, it was 16 yards. I was like, at 50 yards, you're telling me it's a third behind? I didn't say that to him. My head was going, God dang, he could be right. I literally thought that. I was like, shit, I never thought of it that way. But we're not shooting that. You'd have to shoot 100, I think. You'd have to shoot a second of flight time for that to do the math that way.
Yeah.
Because it's feet per second. But at 36 yards or 30 yards, it's like 0.3 seconds. It's a third of it. And that assumes if we just use that, then that means that arrow's roughly 4 or 5 yards behind it. A third of 16, right? 6 times 3 is 18, so 5 yards behind it. But I don't know if that's right either. This is how my mind works, right? I'm not going to just say, nah, I want to know the truth. And if it is, it is. I don't care. But I did pull the data, and it was 0.05, 5/100ths of a second slower time to target. I don't know about the distance thing that he was bringing up. And I don't know that 5/100ths of a second, I don't know how to do the math on it, is X feet. Assume it is, but I need to sit down with a computer and then when you get the output, and if it favors what you believe, stop and ask why it favors what you believe. Don't believe it. Trust me, don't believe it until you really kick the tires about it. Don't just go comment that you're right, because you're probably not. That's been my experience.
Yeah.
Even in some of the most deeply held stuff I've thought about, really heavy stuff has been disrupted on some of our testing. And a lot of it's been real favorable, right? But rarely was it directly in line with what I 100% thought. It was usually like this, and then you went, oh, it's like that. It's not just, flamethrower, right?
Right. Yeah, it's not the bomb. Yeah.
So we'll finish on time to target, because I have a little bit more to say about that. And we addressed this earlier. I'm going to sound like a total home teamer here. But I want you to think about this. How do you know what you're going to hit if you're going faster? Right? How do you know what you're going to hit? Because people shooting fast arrows, you can watch YouTube. There's shoulder shots all the time. That's probably some of the archer error in that. Okay. But we're going to go back to the graph and say, we're going to assume that we have a good release. It is on target at release, and the deer moves. Okay. Let's just set aside the archer mistakes or having to shoot back here out of a saddle at 12 yards, right? That aside, let's just take that out of the equation. It's another reason for a plan B arrow, but I'm going to set that aside for now. We are going to assume that the arrows are on target and the animal moves. How much and what will you hit? Tell me 100%. You can tell me 100% of the time that the arrow getting there 5/100ths of a second faster is going to hit the right stuff.
I don't know how you'd say it was a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. Yeah.
There you go. Now you're thinking, right? Now that's the fair question is maybe. And then the next one's faster. Grant Woods said this to me, and I'll never forget it. You're not hunting the fat, slow ones. They're dead. He didn't say that. He's more eloquent than that, but I like it. I transferred this up. The fat, dumb, slow ones are dead. They either got shot or eaten. They're out of the gene pool. You are shooting at Olympic level athletes. Not average fast guys, not guys who were the best guy on the high school football team and they never forgot your buddy that still does this crap like Uncle Rico and still talks about his high school days and he's 40. God, those guys are annoying. I was a linebacker in the state championship. Okay, well, you're on the bench. We're talking about the NFL level, NBA level, Olympic level. That's all that's left after 3 years. They're the best survival instinct things the Earth's got. Okay? The ones you generally shoot at, unless you're a fawn shooter, and I don't care if you are, those might be dumber. We can't predict how much they can move or if they will. So that means that you don't know what you're going to hit. it does assume that if you go faster, it's always going to be a little better. And I can't get past that because shoulder blade's a shoulder blade.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to stop, but I can't stop now. Okay, last thing, I promise. Scapula, rib cage. This is from the inside. Scapula's moving. Your shaft goes through the scapula and now has to interact with the rib cage. It could hit a rib or it could get bound on a rib. Scapula's moving and hits the rib and torques the shaft, like pinches it. That's a physiologic fact. There's no getting by that. You can leave stupid comments below, or you can email me, troy@ranchray.com, and tell me I'm dumb and there's no rib cage behind the scapula. You are 100% wrong. You are interacting with two bones when you shoot through the scapula, not one. Commonly misunderstood thing. People, all these scapula tests, and will this mechanical broadhead fly through a scapula with no meat on it at a perfectly flat angle? Yes, it will. However, there's no meat on it, there's no hair on it, and there's a rib cage behind it. And classically, the scapula is moving a little bit, and then the ribs are behind. You could center a rib, you could go between them, and the scapula binds the shaft a little bit. We'll leave on that. Like, let people just ruminate on that. So that's why if you have a really light arrow, it doesn't have as much momentum, and it has to interact with this bone that's moving vertically and ribs that aren't moving much and punch through all that stuff. Like, I'm just like, this is the stuff that swims around in my head, sir. I'm sorry.
No, it's it's good stuff. There's somebody out there that's like, I bow hunt. I've never considered any of that. Like, they never put 2 ounces of thought into it.
I hope you, by the time you're here, your head's not spinning. I know it is a little bit because it's stuff that I never thought about 10 years ago either. And then you meet Dr. Ed, some of the scientists I've met, some people who they are revealing these additional concepts to me. They're not patting me on the back and saying, keep pumping that heavy arrow single bevel thing because we think it's the greatest thing ever. That's the only reason we think it, because we want to fight with everybody.
Yeah.
It's not when things go right. That's what Ed always says. Both 700 grains kills them with a perfect hit. 350 grain kills them on a perfect hit. It's never that. It's never that. We agree 100%. Ed will tell you that.
Well,
and then reality.
The world we live in.
All right.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you doing this. Where can people check out your stuff?
Well, I got lucky with the dumbest name ever. So you can type in Ranch Fairy into Google and you will see my dumb face with all kind of random crap and pictures and all kind of stuff. I'm certainly on the YouTube under Ranch Fairy and then Instagram, and I don't do Facebook very much. I'm sorry, I got to 5,000 people and I didn't change the account, and I don't care. So mostly on Instagram under Ranch Fairy and YouTube under Ranch Fairy. Feel free to message me either on Instagram or my email is troy@ranchfairy.com. I will help you. If you run into some kind of a snag, I don't care what weight arrow you're shooting, I will help you build the best system you can build so that you're lethal. And we have our own arrows. I have a whole arrow system, and I'm at Serious Archery. I won't force you to. I won't tell you, no, them arrows are terrible. That other carbon tube with an insert and fletchant on the other side is terrible. I won't tell you that. I'll just say, hey man, here's what I think you should do. Mostly it'll be a spine discussion and how to tune the shafts, but that's how you find me. I'll help you. So,
yeah, heck yeah. Well, I
want you to kill stuff and send me pictures.
Do it.